Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Civ 6 weekly podcast. I'm Sarn. Joining me, as always, is King Louis, the 14th. I'm sorry there. And joining us is Yoshi and Task Force Fish for this week. And we got a lot to cover. There's so much to announce.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Yoshi and Task Force Fish. Thanks for coming on today.
Hey.
So,
I guess we're gonna.
Go ahead.
I was saying, we're gonna talk a little ADCP, and we're also gonna talk about what mods, if there's some cool new mods out there. And I think you said we are gonna bring up some player panel topics, possibly too.
Sounds good.
Yep. So why don't you kick it off with this ADCP news, Louis? You've been talking about it for a while now. What's going on?
Yeah, I think everybody on Discord should flee ignorant of the ADCP because I've been, spamming it all over the place. But I call it holy spam since I think it's for the good of duel. So that's how I justify it in my mind. But we just decided to. Fish just played Rolf a game, and so we were talking about we're going to ban Defender of the Faith for this tournament. So that's like something that we just decided. And I think Yoshi just updated it in the ADCP because I see it's. So that's like the change because a lot of people don't like Defender of the Faith, so that was something we were not sure if we were going to ban or not, but now we are going to ban it for this tournament.
All right. And when is the first event coming?
Oh, it's coming. Yeah, it's Monday. We're starting it all off with and we started off with we do have, like I said, four tiers of events, and we figured to start it off with our biggest tier just to get the ball rolling. So we're starting it off with our which is we only have like 4 of those a year. Since it's taken from tennis, I'm just naming everything after actual tennis tournaments because and nobody seems to care what I name them anyway. So it's called the Australian Open because that is like the first Grand Slam of the year in actual tennis.
All right, it's interesting. What if you're not familiar with tennis? Like, how does scoring work with this? I mean,
It's based on a best like 18. So it's like a tournaments. They're going to be tournaments pretty much a full year's worth of tournaments, and it's all based on like a best 18 formula. So you can't just keep playing tournament after tournament and just piling on points. You can only take like your 18 best results, and for the top players, they have to get 12 of those 18 from like the Grand Slams and these 1,000 and so we have. So that kind of forces the top players to mostly play in tournaments with each other instead of just, oh, I'm going to go over here and play over here. And it's because people want to see the top players play each other. They don't want to see like, oh, you're also over here and Yoshi's over there. And that sort of prevents that. And basically, so there's 4. The top tier is this Grand Slam, and basically if you win that, you get 2,000 points, and if you get to the finals, you get 1,200 points. If you get to the semis, you get 720, 360 quarterfinals, and it just keeps halving all the way down until we don't have a big enough to have a 64 draw. But if you lose in the first round, you always get no matter what. So you don't just get points just for showing up in the draw. Like
okay. Well,
and the other tournaments are just like a fraction of that. So the 1,000 ones, everything is just half of that, and the 500-point ones are a quarter, and the 250 events are like an eighth. So, but it's all that same point system, just or eighth.
If I don't mind stepping in, the ADCP is a rolling 12-month system. So it takes in the previous, the best 18 matches of the previous 12 months. So you can't say when, there's going to be 4 like Grand Slams. You can't win like 5 and use those 5 in your best 18, because once the second, say you're playing in the Australian Open one this year, but when you're playing in the one next year, the previous points that you got from that tournament are going to be no longer be applied to your current score. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like a rolling 12 months. So everything is always coming. I mean, right now it's the beginning, so every tournament's going to add on. But come next year, you're defending. If you won the Australian Open, then you're defending those points, and you can't really pick up any new points. All the best you can do is defend the points that you got from last year. It's just like always a rolling. So come June, it'll go back. Like say June of 2019, it'll take everything all the way back from to June 2018.
All right,
It's always
that's
just
interesting.
moving.
So what it does is it allows players to come in at any point during the year.
Okay. Well, that'll be great for people regardless of when they come into the season. They'll all stand a chance of at least placing somewhere in those brackets as long as they continue to perform. I know.
And we have the good thing is about we have these like because of the rule of the top, like say we're right now we're just saying like the top 12 have to get 12 of their 18 points from these Grand Slams and the 1,000 series, we call Master Series events. And the good thing about that is they can play, anybody can play any tournament they want, but there's really not much incentive for a top player to play too many of the 250 events because they're just they'd be kind of like they'd be better off playing more 500 events and 1,000 events. What should happen is the lower ranked players should play more of those 250s. So it'll be good. Like even if you're lower ranked, you could still win some tournaments. These lower tier tournaments.
Well, all right. So we're trying. So you're saying the system's attempting to pigeonhole the better players into the higher point value events to force them to compete with other top end players.
Yeah, that's exactly what except tennis actually forces the top players to play in the Master Series and the Grand. We're not going to force people to play, but they still have an incentive to play mostly those because they can get much more points. And you can only take your top 18, so it wouldn't make much sense to play a bunch of 250s when you could do well and you could win 1,000 or you could play 250s. It just makes more sense for the top guys to play more of the big events.
All right. Well, it sounds like things have really come together for this. It started as a very base concept, and you guys have really brought it full circle. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this system works once players actually are injected into it and we start seeing some results from these events.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, all you guys here helped me, and I mean Yoshi, I always give like an extra special thanks because he helped the most. He's like the biggest champion of the mods, and he put the most work in of the people that were helping me for sure. So I always give him an extra big, and he had to listen to me all the time too, which is that's not always easy.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, then. So there's been a lot of discussion about. Hold on, sweet pea. About a CPL balance mod, like a mod specifically intended for our competitive community. What's going on with that? It's been going back and forth like crazy.
I think it's still
So
pretty. Oh, go ahead, Yoshi.
this mod's going to be for players that maybe don't, enjoy. They think the game's, unbalanced, and we want to proactively attempt to make changes that we feel would help make more things viable. Like right now, I think things like Defender of the Faith is pretty unanimously banned in the community because of how strong it is. The plus 10 in your friendly territory. So I mean, we're gonna look at certain things to nerf and buff and try to make everything viable. I mean, we do have certain bans in this community, and we would like to change that if possible and allow for other mechanics to be played in the game.
Yeah, I think that should be really good, and it's going to be like a voluntary. It's not really the official way you have to play the game, right? That might be like a much later that we actually say this is the official way. But right now, it's going to be like a voluntary if you use that mod, right?
Yep. So Rip Panda is the person who's actually going in and making a mod for this, and hopefully some of the changes that he's told me he's looking at. He's looking at the Magnus bonus production that you get, nerfing that a little bit. The God of the Forge Pantheon production bonus, Defender of the Faith combat bonus, Goddess of the Harvest faith bonus. Looking at maybe reducing the build charges on the Roman legions, maybe increasing the production cost of the Sumerian war carts, reducing the defensive production bonus on Australia, increasing the production of the German Hansas, increasing the production of the Greek Acropolis, lowering the point value of wonders in terms of score. These are just some of the things that we are looking at right now, and I'm sure there's a ton more.
What about the I'm sure they considered like buffing the spearmen that everybody talks about how they'd like that to be.
They're decent now. Now that they have the Agoge policy card, so you could produce them much quicker, and you can actually chop out spearmen at a decent rate. And people really like the pike and chop too. They're really good at defending against cav.
You don't think you need to add give it like a +5 or something? You think it's okay that
they already have the +10, right?
No, I'm saying the spearmen, like giving them a little more bump. You don't think that's necessary to give them like a +5 or something? Or
what strength are they? They're like what, 25, right? Something like that. Do you guys know?
I think.
Yeah, they're a 25 base, 35 against horses, but horses are a 36.
Yeah, but defending, right? You're on defensive land, you're fortified, you got like +6 from fortify, you got +3, +6 from your defensive land, maybe additional +5 if you're behind a river. They're actually pretty good, I think, in their current state.
I think what we would all like to see, I know Sarnas really brought that up a lot, that how hard that is to mod it, like give them zone of control over like the horsemen. That would be really nice, right, Sarna?
Yeah, I don't understand why anti-cavalry class units don't exercise a zone of control against cavalry class units. They should. They should be the only units that should.
So is that something that's probably I wouldn't think that would be hard to mod. You just give it. I would think that it doesn't seem like that would be that hard to give them.
It might be. Power. Firaxis does like to change some of their code around from each patch, so it would require time for at each patch to actually find where the code is and fix it. But we're not really looking to make any gameplay and mechanical changes. We're just looking to buff and nerf like numbers right now.
Tweaking numbers is a lot easier than going in and attempting to change core coding.
Mm-hmm. I think many of the modders in this community know it's not easy, and big props to those guys who do.
Oh, definitely.
And I'm hoping if the ADCP really takes off, then I'm hoping that some of the modders are going to be motivated to make us some cool mirror maps, maybe, or just dual specific mods or something. That would be nice to see. But yeah, this should be good. The CPL, I mean, that really good when it starts coming out, that people can just, instead of having to remember all these different rules, it's just already baked into that mod. That'll be really nice.
Oh, for sure. And tying right into this whole community, putting in information and more response from them to us, there was a channel made for the Clan Championship Cup called CCC Public Feedback. And we've had tons of people posting into that for things they liked, things they didn't like, what they'd like to see more of, what they don't want to see return in the next CCC. Let's talk about that for a minute. Task, you've been kind of quiet. What stood out in that channel to you?
In which channel?
The public feedback for the CCC.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think one of the issues is that you had a couple clans playing each other more versus distributing the games more along, like, to all the clans. So I remember we had KC and OP fighting each other twice and then I believe we didn't have an equal number of games for Noobs with Attitude or Sunzi. I think they played I guess some of that feedback I read was on that along those lines. But I think it was a very positive feedback for the most part. A lot of people had enjoyed watching the games, and that's due to a lot of the streamers who were like yourself and Canuck, and I think we had Rip Panda for a few games. But yeah, I think that made a big difference on people's perspective on that, and I think it'll be even a bigger tournament and a better viewer turnout next time around.
I think one of the comments I see a couple of people made, they may like to see it longer or have it go on a full week so people could play in the middle of the week too, for some people with different schedules, instead of it just being that one weekend, because it's so jammed. It's like it is very jammed with events. If you gave it like a full week, maybe that would be better, just to spread it out a little more.
It's an interesting concept for sure, because different people work at different times. And one of the biggest reasons that it's done over the course of a weekend is simply tradition. That's really what it boils down to. Is the CCC was traditionally done from a Friday morning U.S. time, right? Where usually the North Americans can't play because they're getting ready for work, but the Asian players and the European players can, depending again on work schedule. And it goes non-stop all the way until midnight Sunday. Again, U.S. time. But because it's on all 72 hours straight of nonstop Civ, people in all time zones have the opportunity to participate. However, one shoe does not fit all in this scenario, and that's part of why people want it to go over the course of a week. It would spread these events out more, would allow more people to play in more events. It would allow just overall a longer... It would just make scheduling easier for these people and some of these clans and communities as well. And it's something we should definitely consider. I don't know exactly where the administrative or moderator staff feel on this issue specifically, but it's definitely something worth looking at.
It's a lot, yeah. Like, I mean, it's pretty. If you're playing in a bunch of them, I could see people getting kind of fatigued. They're playing all these games, just jamming all. I mean, for the streamers, that's a lot of streaming to do all at once.
Yes, it was. I had one day where I had the Iron Man at 4 a.m. my time, and I was streaming pretty much non-stop until about 11 p.m.
Yeah, props.
Not everybody has your streamer has your stamina, starting so that a lot of people would just like. I think Task Force Fish, when we told him, he was just like, "I'm not." Yeah, you were like, "You're gonna need like a break in there somewhere."
Oh yeah, definitely. I needed a break. I was playing a very difficult 2v2 against some pretty good guys, and needed a break there.
So did the Iron Man, did that go over pretty well? And was that pretty
No.
well received?
Well, it was well received as a concept. The problem is I think we need to actually create a map for the Iron Man, because the raw imbalancement of the map dictated the entire game. Which sounds like every other Civ game, let's be honest. And a lot of other games that run along the same genres of Civ do operate on RNG maps or their tournament use. So there is precedent here in terms of using random maps. But the question is how do you go about designing that map? Making a map sounds easy at first, but when you start looking at all the nitty-gritty details of it, it becomes a much more monumentous concept.
Yeah, it's like I said, it'd be nice but it's a I wouldn't expect somebody to make all these, like we have a tournament like every single week and multiple tournaments sometimes. That would just be so many, like we just don't have enough. There's not enough modders that are that into duels to be making. And then people get sick of maps really quickly, so then you have to keep making new. That's why you said that our AoE 2 people just are fine with their random maps and it works fine for them.
Yeah, I mean, but their maps don't suffer nearly the same amount of imbalancement issues in their RNG generation. that Civs does. I don't know why, so don't ask me. It's beyond me. But watching the maps, they just literally go into a lobby, randomly generated map, and you can watch the casters going over them, the observer moving the camera around. Oh, look, he happens to have resources over here. What about this guy? So it's obvious that the maps aren't hard-coded. The players don't know them. They're exploring like crazy. And so is the observer who can see everything.
But yeah, that's what, just to quickly touch, like, I think Yoshi and I agree that, like, at the end, if you play a year's worth of ADCP tournaments, the best players will rise. That's enough matches where the RNG will balance out over a full year. So if you're a top ranked player, it's because you earned it. There's no way you're getting, lucky, like, week after week after week after week.
Yeah, exactly. And over time, things like that will balance out. But what about things like the CCC, where it's a weekend-long thing? It's a one and done, or over the week if it changes to over a week. You go into this match, the Iron Man is one match because it is until a victory condition is hit. And that can take a few hours to God knows when it stops.
It was long, right? How did it go? About 7 or 8 hours?
No. It only went like 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah, I mean,
The FFA I cast after that went considerably longer.
the randomness of the map makes it really hard to play, a single game, right? But at the same time, people do really like, this is, Civ is a 4X game, and one of the X's in that is explore, right? People want to be able to explore the map and then adjust their strategies based on the exploration.
I mean, the only way that we could realistically generate a hard-coded map for the Iron Man, a new one would have to be made for every CCC. Or for any of the other events in the CCC. It'd always have to be a new map. It would have to be made and tested by someone or someones that have nothing to do with the tournament, have nothing to do with any of the clans, because, we have to trust that this person isn't going to leak images or anything to any of these people. And this is, starting to sound like paranoia, but it's realistic concern, because we're talking about a professional event.
And we're going to reuse, I will guarantee we will do at least one dual tournament with your maps, Sarnath, because you made a lot of good maps that I don't think haven't been used as much as they will, because people don't play that many. We will use those
really
maps. You made some good maps for the CPL Challenger Series, so we will reuse those maps again because they're really good maps.
It was like, a year ago, I think Hellblazer tried to make a mirrored map, right? And the problem with that was that rivers wouldn't spawn correctly, right?
Rivers don't spawn correctly in maps you currently make. I mean, heck, one of my maps had an invisible river in, even though it was properly connected.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be great if like, I don't know, maybe Firaxis could possibly address that.
Do your maps scale down? Like, can you make a dual version of it, or is it just it's stuck in the tiny map, or can it?
It's stuck. It's stuck like that. It's stuck however it was made.
It's a pre-made map, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, what Hellblazer was trying to do, he was trying to make generate, like, to have a map that would generate, or the game would generate a mirrored map. That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry.
Yeah, a random map, but it was mirrored.
Hellblazer does have a new. I looked in the Steam Workshop, but he does have a new map that actually does scale. You can make it big or small, and he has like 2 of them. He made one with different with the traditional Civ like values for stuff. So, and that's pretty new. I think I just saw it like a couple weeks ago. He put it up there. He's back, and he actually came on to play, right? Didn't he? Him and Baba Yetu actually did come on and play at least 1 or 2
just
games.
Baba.
I
have seen Hellblazer making some mods for Civ 6, though. I've seen some of his streams. Yeah.
It's definitely good to have some of our modding community returning with Rise and Fall, and I sincerely hope Firaxis learned a lesson from this. If they're not open with their community, with their consumer base, who are interested in their product, and they're not transparent enough, they don't want to give information, then their consumers are going to walk away and go buy a different product. And that hurts them, it hurts their stocks, it hurts all over the board. So I hope they learned a lesson from this.
But I'll give them, Augie will give them. I always just take the because we're always ripping on Firaxis, so I'll be like the few person that will say good things just to bounce that, because you have to give them credit that like the Rise and Fall is a very good. I think it's an excellent expansion. It really added a lot of stuff. Props for that.
Oh, well, absolutely. No one's going to deny that. I mean, it's been great so far. There's so much to see, do, explore, check out. And I think I can comfortably say most of the community has a pretty good grasp on the game now with its new concepts and designs. And that is actually going to segue very well into something else I wanted to bring up. We had some questions from the community, specifically for the podcast for us to address here. And that is, I'm going to bounce this to Task first, because for some reason he never wants to talk. Which is really unlike him. He's usually a chatterbox. But what oddball strategies have you all noticed? What, like, way out left field stuff have you seen people doing that has just been incredibly successful?
Ooh, that's a tough one. First, I'm subbing in for someone to help, so that's why I'm not as chatty. But I did notice an interesting faith purchasing of warrior monks. It was very situational, but it was more gimmicky. But I had a good laugh at that, and they took a few cities with it.
They caught you off guard. They're not really
Not
that
me,
powerful.
no. I
though.
was watching someone else do it.
Oh, I wish they were a little more powerful. It takes a while to like tech them up to be good.
Well, that
Yeah,
also plays into not having barbarians. If you have barbarians in the game, your units are going to get a lot more experience because you can farm the barbarian camps. Not only that, when you clear them out, you get free arrow score.
Yeah, we do. We have the barbs on for our first tournament, so
Ooh.
that was something we debated. But people seem to. I think the barbs are more in the FFAs. Aren't barbs being played more than not? It seems like people like the barbs, but I'm not sure. But is that?
I don't know.
What's the usual? You guys are playing more FFAs than me. What are the usual? Is it barbs on or off? What's the usual FFA settings now?
It's definitely been a fair mix, I can comfortably say.
I would disagree. I've been playing a lot of FFAs recently, and most people like to play with barbs on.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're popular.
If you play a team game, they like to play with barbs off. So it's funny. I don't know why. It just seems that way.
That's because one of the people in the team games, not to name any names, is always the host and forces them off.
No, it just gets voted. It's like the majority of people just voted. It's like it seems standard in a lot of team games now. But there's, they are a little unbalanced at times. It makes the the Tundra starts even worse because all of a sudden you have Tundra barbs coming at you, and then if you have to go straight up and build cities up, then usually it gets really annoying to defend below. You've got players somewhere above you where you have to go settle, and it's
But overall,
situation.
I think it's good because it is sort of like you say, it's how the game was meant to be played, and I don't think it's that big a deal where you have to ban them. And like I said, Yoshi said they're more used more often than not in FFAs. You're saying more than half the time people are saying barbs for the FFAs for the votes. Like
that's what I've noticed as well in FFAs.
I mean,
barbs
for the
will be
error
allowed.
score.
Yeah, it really helps, and it helps you
really helps.
control kind of how fast you want to go. If you want to go Dark Age, then you're gonna avoid clearing any camps. But then if you really want to hit that Golden Age, the players find it's nice to have that access to a camp, boost it by +1, +2, maybe +3 if it's close enough. So.
Or you just get lucky, get Gorgo, and just keep some archers down there the whole game.
Yeah,
Yep.
you just
Yeah.
like free farm,
And then all
get
of a
like
sudden you got
level 7 archers. Yeah.
level 7 field cannons coming
Is
at
that
you.
happening much in like I haven't played tons of duels yet on the or I played some, but I haven't seen that much flipping from loyalty. Have you guys been seeing that in FFAs? People flipping
The only
cities and
time I've seen cities flip is after you capture a city or your city gets captured, and then eventually it'll flip because all of the surrounding cities are exerting a lot of loyalty.
Yeah, unless it's Mapuche. Mapuche will like will just
Oh yeah,
kill
yeah,
5
Mapuche.
units and flip a city.
you think that's something that the CPL mod might need to bump up the loyalty pressure? Because it seems like it's not happening as much as I think Firaxis would have liked it.
There's a lot
Like
of ways to counter it. You know, you can really they built in a lot of ways to avoid flipping, and by building your empire in a very efficient manner of like keeping it tight, the loyalty pressure from each city that a good player is going to do is it's going to pretty much negate any of the opponent's loyalty pressure.
is it at least slowing down the snowball effect like in FFAs because now you don't always
Oh
keep
yeah, I agree with that. I don't know about you, Yoshi, but I think it does slow down the snowball from conquest because you can't hold on to all those cities out there if you go conquer everybody. You basically have to raise them.
Yeah,
So wars become
That's
more
good,
Well-
right?
effective.
That's an improvement
Yeah.
for FFAs, isn't it?
The only way I would disagree is if you can conquer someone quickly. Because if you can grab multiple cities, you'll be fine. But if you can't make that war quick, you're gonna lose it.
Yeah, and in this and with all the tools that people have to defend in Rise and Fall, all the additional tools, like it's yeah, that's much less likely.
That's good,
I do like how loyalties turned out because it's forced players to settle in would-be little nations, little countries, as opposed to sprawling over their entire continent.
Well, it seemed like they did with the Rise and Fall. They want to get people into more tall cities, right? They seem to want to make that a bigger thing, which I like because it reminds me more of Civ
There's
4.
like waves of you don't settle as fast anymore, but there's a point where once you get Magnus, once you get the first promotion that doesn't reduce your pop whenever you build a settler, once you get those two in a city, you just like have 3 builders ready to chop, and all of a sudden you have like 3 settlers all out in the same turn. And so you're seeing like people go to cities, get like early monuments now. You're seeing that a lot. People get their culture up. They want to get early empire and state workforce done so they can get the 2 governor promotions. And yeah, it's a delayed expansion, I guess. If, that's the way to say it. But people are still expanding like crazy if they have the space. Go once you hit golden age, their science is like insane, or their culture can be insane, or they're just faith purchasing all of their builders and settlers on turn 35, 40, or whatever. Whenever the medieval age comes, I forgot what's when is the medieval age? Is it more like 50? I think it's more like 50 now, right?
It's slowed down a lot, and it's been a welcome change, to be honest.
But,
The eras actually feel like eras now. It doesn't feel like
the
I
big
blink
thing,
and
though, yeah. The big thing though is that they hit culture because they took that one civic away that gave culture based on
meritocracy.
meritocracy. They put it as a golden age dedication now, and so since they moved that away, it made culture a lot harder to get. So you're gonna see civs with a who can get culture easier, like Rome, like the Greece's. I think Mapuche can get some culture with their unique improvement as well. Persia, I think they're all really good civs.
Theater districts have definitely
Oh,
been a
Japan too.
welcome district to build now, as opposed to being neglected before.
Yeah, and to go on that, since the eras have slowed down, you see all of the earlier great people get picked. So, like the first 3 classical great generals always get picked. If there's a Greece in there, the first 3 great riders, or there's a Russia in there, the first 3 great riders almost always get picked. Um, all of the scientists usually get picked because everyone loves getting their campuses out. A lot of the earlier commercials get, or not commercials, great merchants get picked as well. It's nice, instead of people, Russian tech, all of a sudden getting to industrialization like turn 65. All those great people that could have been picked are now, or that weren't getting picked before, are now getting
Yeah,
picked because errors are slowed
what
down.
about emergencies? Are they having a big impact in the game, or is it just like is it really speed? Is it speeding the game up, or making it or no effect, or making it longer? I thought it's supposed to make the game shorter, isn't it? The emergencies. It's supposed to like speed up the decision of the game, isn't it?
I think for the most part, most players who take cities know that they can usually hold it, and so if an emergency against a player were to happen, they usually don't get the enemy players don't usually accept that emergency because it's them not getting that would make the attacker like so much stronger because they get like I don't know how much gold do they get, like
It
1,200
depends on
sometimes?
the era, and it's gold per person participating.
Yeah, so if everybody fails and that one person who's trying to protect that city gets it, he gets all that gold, right? And he gets like an additional other bonuses +2 per enemy or something, +2
So it's
attack
not.
bonus.
So it's like they're just not being used much. If they were, they probably would swing the game, but their people are just
Um,
not doing them.
I mean, it's hard to because most people who attack are in a much stronger position, and the defending player usually can't push back.
Well, the
So it's
problem is
they don't want to accept it.
also cultural mentality here, and that's that people are always afraid of who's winning. And because of that, when the emergency happens, instead of everyone teaming up to take him down, they're just kind of hiding under their blankets and throwing their head in the sand. When honestly, if they all teamed up, they probably could stop the attacker, especially if this emergency's early on. Like, oh no, he's attacking with knights. I've seen someone kill off a Cossack attack with horses. Horses! And they
But
didn't have Defender of the Faith. They just outplayed the hell out of the guy.
you as a player can have more impact. Like if you screw it, I'll accept the emergency, even if the other players don't accept it. Aren't they going to be compelled to help you do it? Because if you fail, then they're going to get screwed too by that big gold that you give the winner, the leader. Or are they stuck? And they could still help you out even if they're not officially part of the emergency, right? Because if they see you, it's just you. So you just say, "Screw it, I'm doing it anyway," and the other guys, wouldn't they
I mean,
want to help you?
everybody's going to be mad at you then for accepting it.
But they're still going to help you probably because if they don't, then the leader's going to get even more.
Possibly, but it could anger a lot of the other players to not want to necessarily play with you in the future. They're going to accept it for no reason.
There's like a lot of peer pressure to like not do these emergencies. It seems like.
Well, I mean, you have to be in a position to win, right? If you're not in a position to win, like if you don't want to accept the emergency to retake that city when you're on the opposite side of the map, or you're like you have knights and he's got like tanks, you're not going to want to try to attack him at that point, right? So a lot of the times it's really hard to.
I was happy to see that. Like I didn't know because I played a bunch of duels and I didn't know. I assumed that there was no emergencies, but then I played one the other day and I was happy to find out that they are in duels, which is cool. I thought they weren't, but that they actually are.
Yeah, well, it's all based. It's not guaranteed that you'll always get an emergency. It's always a percentage chance.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact numbers, and I don't think it's in the XML files. So I think people just have to keep testing it and somehow get a number.
I don't know if that's going to be different. You think the calculus of accepting an emergency is going to be different, like in a duel, than in a
The
FFA?
calculus.
Going to accept it or not?
Yoshi, you don't play with a calculator or like 5 calculators?
No, I just all in my head, dude.
Oh wow, that's
Just kidding.
what I expect from a top 10 player.
But you think that's going to make people do it? I don't. I think it's. I don't think that we don't have much experience with dual emergencies, so I guess we don't really. I guess we'll find out after the tournament what's going on because I'm assuming that we'll get some in the tournament.
There might be. duels, it's 1 against 1. So maybe you'll see people trying to take a city and then or taking a city state, keeping it, and then all of a sudden there's an emergency, and could be a turning point in the game. Definitely.
Yeah, but I'd like to see them use more. Seems like that's a mechanic that's not being used enough. So maybe that's something they could tweak with
It's
the CPL mod
hard,
too.
Maybe, but it's just usually it's like if you don't want to necessarily take that risk. If it's like a 25% chance that you'll win, you don't usually want to take that because it's just bad percentage for you to take it.
Unless you're
if you have a
crazy.
strategy, then maybe, because a lot of them last 20, 30 turns. So if you have a strategy to maybe hit them in 10 turns, and it might take like 10 turns to take that city, and if you can, then
I mean, there's some mind games you can do with it too. Like you can hop in the fucking emergency. Like, oh, he's across the map and he's helping them. Yeah, whatever. He's probably just sending them gold. Then you just have your navy go around the other side of the Pangea. And you slam all of his coastal cities, and now he's torn. Does he defend the city for the emergency, or does he try to fight your navy? Probably can't do both.
Yeah, I'm sure that I don't know if that's come up much, but yeah, like you're saying, you could have some like maybe like some I don't not like underhanded, but just some like kind of devious. Basically, say I'm going to do the emergency, and you like I've heard people talk about that. Like I know it's going to fail, and you're going to give me as a leader, like you're going to give me some of that gold because we sort of have an agreement.
Yeah, people who do that and are found out, you're probably not going to get another game in the community. No one's going to want to play with you.
Yeah, it's definitely would be a devious tactic. So, but I mean, it'll come up. Somebody will, if something's available, somebody will eventually try to do it. I think.
Yeah,
well,
Louis.
it's a large part of this community does think that it's abusing game mechanics. It's like saying, "Oh, my teammate or my neighbor is Australia. Let me help you out. I'll keep declaring war on you I'll declare war on you, peace you for 10 turns. So every 20 turns, I can keep declaring war on you and giving you this crazy production boost."
I mean, just it's diplomacy. People don't like it, but it's allowed. I mean,
Yeah, but
some people
to
cry
some extent.
abuse. I mean, but you're really not abusing it. You're making a diplomatic agreement.
Yeah, that's
But
always. I guess that's a tension sometimes in free for alls. One person thinks these are only the rules, and the other person says these are all fair rules, and then people disagree on what's considered
Well,
cheesy or.
opinion's eye of the beholder, right? Everyone's going to view things differently. And, the rules that we do have within this CivPlayers Leagues community is for the purpose of just ensuring that games go on with, out so many problems. We don't, enforce Civ bans or anything like that. All the power is really in the hands of the players. So if the players, say, in this game, we're agreeing to X, Y, Z in addition to what's normally banned, then for that game, X, Y, Z are not allowed. Or are allowed if that's what they agree on. And people need to realize that the community has the power here, not the administrative and moderator staff. They just enforce the rules and policies. That's all they're there for.
Yeah, there was some talk about, but I think it got basically Canucks pretty much, and some other people just put it away because people were saying like, why can you force the host shouldn't be able to force. But you have to let them. Otherwise, you're making somebody play a game they don't want to play. So you can't really tell the host they can't set the settings. But there was some debate about that in the player panel. I remember. I think what was just emphasized was that if you do it during some atypical settings and you're the host, you're just you have to at least notify people this is what's going on, and I think that's how it was resolved. But I have one question that I think the world wants to know, and well, just maybe just me. Just want to know if Yoshi's actually playing in the ADCP tournament.
I don't know yet.
You're still
I haven't
not
decided.
sure.
Still undecided.
I think you should. I think it'd be a a grand old time.
What if I get task? I might lose.
No. I think the big worry is automation. I only won that duel against Rolf because of Defender of the Faith. But
great players.
how bad he was gonna smash me, I think.
Man.
Your skill level's pretty high, Yoshi, so you'd be seeded, so you wouldn't face anybody in the first or second round, probably.
Well, I mean, Task would have beaten Yoshi, but Yoshi bought Task's book and all the strategies were revealed.
They're out of date though.
They are, although it will be updated very soon.
Yes.
I keep thinking every day it's going to be, okay, I'm going to release the update today. And then I think of something else because I played a game and something else has come up and I need to put in something about that. And so here I am like 2 weeks later, and I've added something like 40 pages to this book, at least. I think I might be on 45. But I'll get the update out soon, and I'll put out a PSA about it.
All the pressure's on Task Force because he's the #1 seed, so he's feeling the pressure.
For now.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
We'll see how low the mighty shall fall.
But we got about 28 people so far, so I'm happy that we got a pretty good turnout for the first tournament. I'm pleased.
It's definitely going to be really exciting because a lot of people actually do prefer, more semi-pro and professional level duels.
Yeah, like you. Go ahead, Yoshi.
I think also what's going to be great about these is that people will, with that doodle that King Louie's been talking about everywhere, the text lobby, people put down the times that they can play, and we'll do our best to help them, schedule games. We'll suggest like certain times where they can play against each other, and we'll have like, if you can't play all your games by 3 or 4 days, you'll have to play all your games today or something, or else you'll have to forfeit or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be hard code. That has to be hard
And I
code
think
as
we're
well.
going to allow, unless you guys can tell me some reason why. I've been talking to different people. I think there's no reason why we can't allow people to like return to a save game in the tournament. I'm trying to think. Is there a way?
No, there's not, and I'll talk to you about the reasons why after this.
Oh, so you're saying that wouldn't work very well?
I don't think that
would. I won't budge on this issue, and my reasons I'm not going to say in front of the world.
I understand what Sarnath is saying here, and he's right. So, yeah, we should not allow that at all, ever.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know. I just was putting it out there because I thought that would help people. But if you guys are saying that it's gonna
Positive.
be a bad thing.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a bad thing.
Well then, yeah, well, that's good. Then
That'll
that's something
open
we
up
won't
a
be doing.
Pandora's box of issues for sure.
I just wasn't sure if there was a way to. But okay. You guys are saying that you definitely could cheat with that.
Yes. So moving right along, let's talk mods. Mods have been a bit of a sheltered topic for a while, kind of on the back burner, because Rise and Fall just came out. The modders and creative community needed to figure out exactly what they had to do to get things working again, what they're working on, what they're still working on in some cases, and some new ones have hit the workshop. And I wanted to go over one. I'm going to be putting an image up here for all of you watching here in just a second. And there you are for those watching. And as you can see, it's a more in-depth report for your city. Now, specifically, if you look at it, it breaks down all of the policy cards you have access to. But not only that, it shows what, if it will impact that city, how it will impact that city, like all the changes that'll come from it, or negatives. Food, production, gold, science, culture generation, all of it.
That sounds really good.
I think some people, some of the better players, quote unquote, are going to argue like, oh, well, why can't they just do it, themselves? Why can't they just calculate it themselves? But I would argue that it's both a time-saving method and it's just better to have more information at your hands.
Yeah, but it's those quote unquote better players that are crying about turn timers because these people are doing it in their heads.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you see, like a lot of times in the early game, I like to look at my tiles, switch tiles between my cities, and maximize all my production and food and stuff. But I think having things like that show that type of information would be really good. I think
Yeah, like the
mods that
C.
also show when you're going to reach the maximum amount of science or culture required before you hit that boost. I think that's also good as well. I think the CQUI mod does that.
Yeah, that's my favorite. That one's great. I hope they've updated that or will update it soon because that was really helpful.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't always
Or a
like
lot
to. I mean, you can technically you can count your science every turn. You'll know like when you hit that mark if you have a calculator out. But Tess does that all the time.
5 calculators. Just
But
to be
but I
safe.
love that
I'm
CQUI
making.
because it made me click instead of clicking the score all the time with the CQUI, I was clicking a lot less. So I thought that was I really did enjoy that it was less clicking on the
I
score all the
think I
time.
would still look at the score all the time because it's actually pretty helpful, especially in the early game. You're like, oh, he's got X amount of civics done because each civic is 3 points, or he has X amount of techs done because each tech is 2 points.
But the CQI would at least give you their
But
military score, which is
CQI, yeah, it does without having to look at that stuff. It gives you military score, science, culture. Does it give gold as well? I don't think it does, right? Gold, you actually have to go in the trade screen and look. Gold.
But for those that did like what this mod does, for those of you watching, it's called Better Report Screen. The link is in chat, and it is made by Infixo. You can find it at the link there in the workshop. It goes straight to the workshop, and it does so much more than just that too. The city report screen is just heavily expanded upon, and it's just absolutely amazing.
So have you tried it out yourself, Sarnath, yet?
Oh yeah, I love it.
So do you don't have to click in your city as much to check out what's going on with your production? Is it more like
No, I
readily
actually
available?
use the I actually use the city report screen to look at things now, and I normally wouldn't. And this works for both Rise and Fall and Vanilla. And I'd like to mention that while this mod's been out for a bit, it has risen to one of the most popular mods so far since Rise and Fall's come out when it was updated. So it's not only picked up in terms of quality of life of what it brings to the table, but it's also been widely accepted and admired and very appreciated by much of the community at all.
Well, that's a good find by you then, but it hasn't been, for whatever reason, it hasn't been picked up in the CPL much yet.
Well, no mods are really picked up much in the CPL, let's be honest.
That's true, but yeah, this sounds like one that there's where I hope that you would let a lot of people try it out because it sounds like it's going to make the game a lot just easier to
I
navigate.
think the best one that we could possibly get to CPL would be some sort of the turn timer. Or there's actually. Do you mind if I talk about another possible mod?
Of course, that's the whole point of this section of the podcast.
Cool.
We're talking
So
mods.
there actually is a mod that delays the start of turns by 4 seconds. Have you seen that? I think it was Checker who was talking about it, and maybe somebody
Oh,
else.
to deal with the first move stuff to try to deal with that.
Because, definitely, when you're playing simultaneous turns, first moves are determined by host. If you're the host, you usually get a first move off on an enemy player, or if you have a better PC, you usually load in slightly faster, so you get maybe 1 to 2 moves off. And I think it really hurts players who don't have as good setups. And I think delaying the start of the turn by a few seconds would greatly help all the players, and it'll make a more balanced multiplayer community.
Oh yeah, I think that would be, yeah, because otherwise it's just hard. It's not very doable to just tell people to wait 5. Like that's just not going to probably happen, right? People aren't going to follow it, right? You need something where it's like hard
I mean,
coded
I've
in.
I've been in wars where I will maybe, since I do sometimes get first moves off. I will move one unit and then not move anything else until I see them react. I've also done things where I've played with people who will let me know when they've loaded in, and they'll be like, "Okay, I'm in," and then people start making moves. Um, I mean,
But
that's
it's
more
hard
of a
to like,
gentleman's agreement.
yeah, it's hard to like get everybody to do that though, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
Well, it's
But,
definitely
uh,
worth
like
looking
a
at
mod.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
gotten a lot of support from a lot of players.
actually, one thing I do want to talk about eventually, though, is possibly using the dynamic turn mode. Is it dynamic? Yeah, in duels, and I think that could bring a more balanced duel.
Ugh.
But
In duels, though.
you mean like a non-broken dynamic turn timer because it gets
No, no, no,
everybody
no,
knows it gets like too long after a while and it's ridiculous.
not the turn timer, but the turn mode, dynamic turn mode. So once you're at war, each player basically gets their own turn. And I
But
mean, it
it
would
doesn't
make
work
for a
very well.
longer game, but it does completely negate any first move possibilities in it. It is a different strategy.
But people are at war so often, and especially in duels where it would just be like that the whole time, mostly, right? Most of the game
Yeah,
you'd
yeah,
be in
but
that.
some players do like to move their units up, and knowing that they can get a first move off, they'll be able to move it back in that next turn. But if you attack that turn, and then the enemy has a full turn to react, you're putting a lot of your units in the front line, possibly dying to archers, to other units in a more defensible position.
But I think, see, it seems like it would just make the games they're already longer as it is. Or I would think that would just make the game too. I'd much rather have the one you're talking about, the 4-second delay. That's the best fix, I think, by far.
Okay. Well, it's definitely interesting and worth taking a look at both concepts to see who likes what. And, we'll just have to see. Some people might prefer going one way or the other on this.
And maybe we'd implement that in the future, like the finals of the ADCP
Oh, it
tournament.
could be a
Like you
completely
have to
different
you have to
tournament.
use the dynamic when you have like the very best players and people really want to see them get into it.
I'm
Well,
thinking if this could be a completely different tournament. I mean, not all the tournaments have to be the same settings every single time.
Oh no, yeah, we plan to do different settings. So like
Yep.
I said, we want to use starness maps in some of the tournaments. So we'll try bigger maps, smaller maps, different, like all piece one. We'll try a little everything, I think.
alright. Well, I'd like to move on to another mod that's been sent to me that'd like to be brought to some spotlight here. And this is the mod called Map Tax. And I'm going to put another image up for all of our viewers out there. And as you can see, there are tons of different little pins you can put down with a lot of symbols, from oil wells to seaside beach resorts for you culture people, districts with the actual district symbols, scientist stuff, musicians, armies, even lumber mills. And this mod is made by BS Zanya. Through that link into the chat for those of you, so you can take a look at it yourselves. And this this mod can be used on existing saves or turned off after your save, and it won't corrupt your game file. In fact, the creator has even gone as far as to make sure it properly interacts with the CQ UI. It just layers on top of its pins, and it resizes the pin menu because you have more pins to choose from, so it doesn't take you 15 years to scroll to the pin that you want to use.
And it does. What's good about it is it doesn't force the other player doesn't like it. They don't have to do the pin, so it doesn't affect their game at all. Like it's not like forcing something. Like the CQI is forcing a different like way to look at things, but this is not forcing anything, right? If you don't put any pins, it doesn't change anything, right?
Right, and even if you do, it's still easier to view the pins that you do use. And I really think that this is a pretty cool tool that it's a very small file too, I noticed. It's not even 0.1 megabytes in size. Heck, it's not even 0.07 megabytes in size. It's incredibly tiny, non-invasive, And it's just a quality of life update, and I think it's brilliant.
So can somebody play it and take the mod, and another person playing doesn't have to adopt it also, or does it automatically?
I would assume all players in a lobby would need the mod just to ensure everyone can sync up properly. I'm not too sure I would try to get people to join lobbies where the mod isn't fully synced up.
But
You know
that's
what I'm
really
saying?
good that the person really took time to make sure it doesn't mess up any other mods or doesn't that
Doesn't
you can
even
turn it on
affect
and
your
off.
saves. I mean,
You
I
can
could.
turn it on, you can have it on, and then later say I don't want it, and then it won't change your game at all. It
No,
won't
not
mess
at
it up.
all. Like, let's say I had a game saved in single player, whatever, and I said, "Oh wow, this is cool. This will help me," and I download it and I load into that save. I can use those pins as if I started the game with them.
Wow. So what kind of pens so you've been using it some? What kind of pens are the most helpful? Do you think that people
I
would?
haven't personally been using this. Again, this was sent to me by someone to bring up during our mod section today. And
But what would you
for
pin?
me, I'd pin the
what kind of stuff
districts.
would you pin?
I'd pin the darn districts. I always map out my districts. So this would be immensely helpful for me.
I would pin
A
all
lot of
tabs.
pens in games already. You're saying?
Oh yeah, I use pins.
What about you guys? Do you guys use pen? I've never used.
Oh, I love
I
this
think I
mod.
will
Like, it's a
Yeah.
wonderful tool.
I thought you were gonna refer
pens
to
now
that
that
one
with this
Game
mod.
Pass.
I will try it out.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Let's hope that someone doesn't use this mod for evil. I know I've been in a situation where a player who was getting killed by me pinned like every tile in my nation. Like, they put a pin on every single tile, and it was so bad that I couldn't click on anything. It was just so laggy. It was the ultimate troll.
It actually lagged the whole game out, so we had to. I mean, we asked him to remove it.
Why is it? Yeah. So you would think it would only show the pins to that person, but everybody sees the pins in the game.
Well, no, it's not only that. The pin being there and being seen by other players, that's a data transfer that has to be maintained. So that's extra pressure on every single player's computer that's in that game.
But it doesn't show you. So you pin your district. If all I see is a pin, I don't see the pin name if I'm playing you.
No, you will see the pin name if you have vision of it.
Oh, okay.
If that pin is sent for you to have visibility, you will see it. And that data of what it's called and what symbol it is has to be sent to you and maintained every turn. Just like unit stats and movements, just like what's going on in cities, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. Trouble is, people will use it for trolling, because I won't mention the player, but I saw a player put, like, this is where I'm going to kill this person, and they put that on the pen name. Like, killing this person next or whatever. So it will be, I mean, yeah, there's people will troll with it, unfortunately.
Are there any other mods that were suggested that people look at? Actually, I haven't looked at any of the Civ mods. I know there's a lot of ones out there, and like I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, but he makes a lot of.
You mean
interesting
different
mods.
added civs, you mean? Like new civs?
Yeah, I know a lot of single player players really love to play like these mods and stuff, and I've seen people try to play them in multiplayer, but I don't think they've necessarily taken off.
What about the better? Do you know that? I know you're a big fan of the better balance mod, Sorneth. Do you know if that's been updated for RF?
I actually do not. I can take a look.
It is updated for that.
Oh, it is. Oh, good, because that's
Yep.
it adds a bunch of new units. It adds a UU for every civ.
Yeah? And all the DLC civs are separate mods. Like in their, whatever the DLC pack was for those civs, that's how the mod comes as well.
Yeah, that's a good mod, because it did give a better like spearman version and added some.
Oh, some of those
armored.
units are crazy.
I think it added an armored like knight or like armored horseman.
I don't know if we're talking about the same mod. I
No,
don't know.
he's
if that
talking about
one's,
the more war mod extension for it because it relies on the better balance, and that expands the tech tree and adds in units for every class of unit in every single era. So if you like beelining Cav, you would hate this mod because you're going to have to go into the other parts of the tech tree to get the in-betweens.
Yeah, so that I think that's something in the ADCP that we can that we can sort of force on the players for a tournament, say, and then we'll see if because people are so, like as you said, they're so not inclined to try mods. That's the one kind of force players to try mods. Like this tournament is like this, and hopefully people will see that they're actually really good, a lot of these mods. Because it's like pulling teeth, right, to try to get the CPL sometimes to use these different mods, is what we're saying.
I think a lot of the times, a lot of the community's opinions is based on a lot of the more vocal players. Definitely, I can see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, like a couple top players say this is broken, and then people just kind of fall in line with that. You mean?
To some extent, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the times some of it's true, and sometimes it's may not necessarily be true.
So what about you said we maybe talk about player panel stuff, unless there's another mod thing we're going to talk about. Is there some player panel thing that you guys that jumps out that you wanted to talk about? I know that's something we might talk about. Trying to think what were the big player, just like big. What was, like, Yoshi would probably know the best. What's like the biggest thing in the player panel that people are debating? That's like the biggest topic you'd say right now.
People are looking. We're possibly going to be adding a new turn timer mode that's going to allow for, since we can't really adjust, or we haven't found a really good numbers to adjust the dynamic turn timer, making a modded dynamic turn timer. We're thinking of having a turn timer that like another option for a turn timer, like early game is like 120 seconds, and then once you get to turn 40, you up it to 150, and then turn 80 you can up it to like 180 or something like that. And I think it'll help make the earlier games go faster. There's no need or any reason for players to go full 150 seconds or whatever on turn 3. I think it's a big complaint in the community.
And so as of now, the only way to do it is to reload the save and change the turn timer.
Yeah. So I think that's going to end up what's going to be happening, and I think a lot of players are hopefully going to like that, and yeah, it does make sense to have 150 plus into the Renaissance and later eras, because it can be hard to finish all your moves.
I wish there was a mod that if somebody rings the bell to like more than 5 times in a row, that just crashes their game out. I'd be for that, because I think that's one thing that's annoying when somebody's like going bing 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 bing. That's the one punitive mod I would like to see. And maybe that doesn't happen to you guys as much, but it's kind of annoying when somebody just keeps going bing 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 bing. Not that
Well, you're
mods
probably
ever
playing
gonna...
with some pretty rude people.
I mean, honestly, though, those people could be reported for unsportsmanlike conduct, because if you're dinging the hell out of that timer, you're pinging every single person in that game with that, too. And it's really annoying, and people, one, aren't going to want to play with you. And two, if you're going to make an ass of yourself, you're going to get treated like one. And honestly,
I'm just
if
kind
someone...
of exaggerating it. Yeah,
I'm going to be... But it's not exaggerated. It does happen. And honestly, let's say if I get a complaint from someone saying, "Oh well, this person was saying X, Y, Z to me," and I look into it and I find out it's because the guy was pinging the hell out of the turn timer every turn, dude, I'm gonna tell him to take a hike, and he earned it and more.
Yeah, for me, I'm. It doesn't actually. I mean, it annoys me some, but I don't know if is that an issue happening in FFAs too. people doing that? I don't right now. I don't play that many FFAs. Is that happening?
Most players don't. I mean, I do.
Most.
I'm not going to name anybody, but people in the community know players who do that. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay when like if it's turn 3 and maybe you think the player's AFK or something, you can give a couple pings. Or I prefer to just speak in voice and just be like, "Hey, are you there? We're waiting on you." And usually that they might have gone off to go use the restroom or something. But yeah, I would suggest nobody does that unless it's absolutely necessary.
Huh.
Yeah, you got to be. I mean, sportsmanship is definitely important in any competitive game.
For sure. And, there's this golden rule that exists for a reason. Treat others how you want to be treated. If you're going to treat other people like crap, well, it tells all of us you want to be treated like crap.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. So, was there any other? That was the big. Any other player panel stuff that sticks out that people are really?
Those were the big two, to be honest. That and the CCC review. It's been absolutely incredible to see the community really step up and put their thoughts out there. And it's important to us that you all do speak up, whether it's on the podcast, in the comments afterward, in the various channels, the suggestion channel. These channels exist because we want to hear your thoughts and opinions. We want to know what changes would you all like to see, and why do you want to see those changes? What would they accomplish? And a lot of the rules in our community have come from those channels because people speaking up, and it's like, you know what, that's a really good idea. Let's talk about how we can make this happen. And it turns into a wonderful thing. Or in some cases, well, no, that's really not something we can really do. But, you don't know if you don't put it out there. So I really encourage everyone in the community to step up if you have something on your mind about changes you'd like to see. Put the information out there. Those channels are there for you. Your voice matters.
Talking about, yeah, especially with the CPL mod, that's going to be where if you want something changed, you got to speak up in that channel. Otherwise, it's probably not going to happen.
Well, I'd also like to let people know that our help and advice is pretty. We just updated help and advice. Task is graciously offered to take the role of moderating that channel, and
Deleting the spam.
And he does his best to keep it up to date, make sure people are getting their questions answered, and
In the CPL room, you mean the CPL balance mod?
the help and advice channel.
Oh, the help and advice channel.
Under the help and advice category. And then we also cleaned up the other channel, which I can't find right now. That is called, where is it? Suggestions. It's one got cleaned up recently, and
Also,
any suggestion that you guys put in there, we usually bring it up in our meetings, our admin moderator meetings, and as admins and moderators, we have meetings 3 times a week, usually an hour plus, and we try to discuss all the current topics. And yeah,
Also, we always like to give our guests plugs if they have something, and Task Force Fish definitely has something to. You're working on an update to your guide, I understand. Is that correct?
Yep, almost done. I have, I believe, I keep saying this, but I believe I'll post it tonight, and then it'll be updated and available sometime towards the end of this weekend.
And
That's great.
And they get on Amazon, right?
Yep, Amazon Kindle. I'll put up a little ad for it.
Is it just under Task Force? Is it just under Task Force Fish in Amazon?
Yeah, if you search my name in Amazon Kindle, you'll find the book that way. You can also search just by the combat guide, for Civ 6. Yeah,
And a number of people have got it in the CPL, right? I know you got a bunch of reviews for some people in CPL. It's getting really good, very good feedback.
yeah, I love the feedback. It's apparently helped a lot of people, and I'm happy that it has. And I'll keep that stuff. Kind of motivates me to keep providing some of these detailed guides to give some help to people, so that yeah, I think it's like more time efficient too to help new players getting into the game if we could just point to different material that other players have just created. So that's been a lot of my motivation behind this stuff, and it's always great to hear the feedback.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I found your league profile.
I did want to
Yeah.
take a moment of our time here, though, to really thank everyone who stopped by last weekend during the Level with a Cause charity event. We had an amazing turnout, and for those who aren't familiar, it's something that's run and orchestrated by Wolf Crier, who's a big streamer for Diablo 3. And he does this every ladder reset, where he gets with a charity organization, sets everything up, and we get to ask for volunteer streamers. We all come together and we try to raise money for a charity. This last one we did, we raised money for Save the Children, who works in over 120 different countries around the world, providing food for starving children, shelter for kids without homes, and they believe that every child deserves a future. And as a father, I could definitely get behind that, and very much did so. I took a lot of pride in it. And we raised over $9.3 thousand for that charity organization. And I wanted to thank everyone out there who stopped by any of the streams, even if you just showed your viewership support. Just being there was still important to all of us streamers there. And a huge thanks to anyone who donated. It was incredible. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great cause, and I know you did it some months ago for the one with mental illness. That was the first one you did. Oh, but the first one I remember.
Yes, it was for Take This, and that was the second Level with a Cause. This last week was the third one, and I will very much be going to every single one as a streamer to help raise money. I take a lot of pride in being able to participate in various charity events, and I do every time I stream and there's an event going on. If there isn't a main charity for that event, I'll grab a link for one and I'll start raising money for it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a great idea. You're just playing a video game anyway, might as well raise some money for charity. Great concept.
And with that, I think we can wrap up this week's podcast. Big thanks to everyone for coming by, whether you're watching us live or you're stopping by one of the channels over the weeks to come. We really appreciate your viewership. You guys are why we continue to put out this content. So a huge thanks to all of you. Thanks to Yoshi and Task Force, our guests for this week, and thanks to you, Louie, as well as my co-host. It's been great.
Yeah, it's really fun as usual. Thanks, Task and Yoshi, for coming on to this week. Thanks everybody for
having
listening.
us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We can use
And for you ADCP addicts out there, it's finally here. I don't know if there's that many of you out there, but wherever you are, it's finally here. So you can go crazy now.
that's our choice.
All right. Big thanks to everyone out there for all of your support, and look forward to seeing you guys